Well, I don't know if I really have any discussion today because I've given you my overview, so I'll just let you guys lead us through. I did put together a list of all the capital items and allocations and left space for additional discussion. I put a handy-dandy little tabulation in here, so as you go, we'll be keeping track of where we are financially if need be. So, fast math.
Have to do our math.
Yeah, that's the point because my in the head math doesn't work as well as the computer. So.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and get things started, and again, appreciate everybody's time and effort that went into this. I know it was a tremendous amount of time, many hours, and it's really helped our decision-making process with all the work that you guys have done, department heads, everybody else that's involved. So what we have us before right now is a structurally balanced budget. I wish Washington, D.C. was listening to us right now, but anyway, for the city of Mitchell, that's something to be extremely proud of. So there's more than likely going to be a few changes, and that's what we're going to try to do in the next couple hours. And to be quite honest with you, I think if we stay on task and we keep with the discussion, I believe that we can get the majority of this put together. And then we do have on the schedule for the before the next council meeting. So it's just a matter of how much we get done today will just eliminate the size of the meeting that will be coming up in 2 weeks. So what I think I would like to do now is actually, if there's items that you would like to be put into the budget, I think we can start there. But then keep in mind, after we add something, and that's what Michelle's going to keep track here, and then we'll have to make for sure that either revenue is going to have to increase or there's an expenditure that's going to have to be eliminated. So just everybody keep that in mind as we move through here. And I think a good place to probably start would be the allocations.
Okay.
Now, we all know, we've all read on the background of where the request was, and then in order to make things obviously balanced, as Stephanie brought this to us, we have got the proposed, which the proposed right now is actually in the budget. So just keep that in mind. So I'm okay with walking through line by line to see where you're at, and then what's going to happen is once we settle in on what the proposed, the council is thinking, then tomorrow, if we can get through this, at least this part, then we're going to have Stephanie send out letters to all the organizations, and then they will be allowed to come at either before the August meeting that we're going to have for budget, or we also do a final approval in September. And so that's what we're going to attempt to do, and then we'll just kind of, like I say, kind of work through this. Now keep in mind, as everybody is aware, that we gave Stephanie the direction of keeping the operational budget status quo. And of course, we all know that our salary study came in, so if you see the overall that it did increase, that's because we followed our salary study. But the operations, Stephanie has assured me that all the departments have come in with the same expenses, or they might have shuffled around a little in between, but overall, the operating expenses remain neutral, and in some cases actually dropped a little bit. So as we're working through some of these others, please keep that in mind too, because if we didn't give anything to the city, then we probably need to take that in consideration for the entities that are outside. So does anybody have some general comments they would like to make before we start walking through?
Are we going to be voting on each one of them separately? Or
I think so, because there is probably items in here that some would support individually, but if we do it all as one group, there might be an issue. So again, I think if we just stay on task, we can get through them. But I don't know, Danny, you okay with doing individually? Because I think some has personal preferences that,
We've done that before like that, I believe.
okay, you guys all right with that?
And remember, a 4-4 is a bill, correct?
That is correct, and that's something to keep in mind too, is according to where we're structurally, that our government is, the mayor sits and listens. He can obviously give us his input if you so choose, but no vote. No vote. Okay,
So 4-4 is a no.
is a no.
I do have a few comments to make as we
Okay, go
move
ahead.
through these also.
Oh, you want to wait till then,
I
Jerry?
think as we get to each one on that.
Okay. Okay. Well,
Start at the top.
we'll start at the top unless you guys want to do something differently. Okay, first one, LifeQuest. The last year we contributed $9,000. The request was 12, and the budget has 4,500.
I'd like to put that back to 9,000 for the 2018 proposed.
I don't know if you want motions or what, but
I
I would
think
agree
so.
with that. If you're making that motion, I'll second it.
That's one of the ones I want to make a comment on.
Okay.
I don't know if you want me to comment on that now or not.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to, I think LiveQuest is a great organization, and I certainly support everything they do. But I just want to point something out to make sure that all the council members are aware of it. I kind of looked at these over the weekend, and one thing I noted in some of my notes was that on, we had, well, it was 12,000 that was requested, and what Stephanie had proposed, and the budget was 4,500. There was 9 counties that contribute $50,955. Plus the Davidson County, they put in 7,500, and the city of Mitchell puts in 12,000. I don't know why it's more of a question. Actually, I think I ended up with more questions than I did with answers when I was looking at it, because the city of Mitchell is the only city in 9 counties that contribute to the funding of this organization. And so between the city and Davidson County, it's $19,500. I thought, well, you really can't go by county. So then I went back and I looked at all the population of all the counties, and I came up with, let me go to that page here real quick. Came up with a total of, in a population-wise, I thought that might be a fair way to do it. So I came up with a population of 60,733 for the 9 counties. Davidson County alone is 19,858 population-wise. So we do have the greater share of the population on this whole budget thing. But if I took out, Davidson County and the city of Mitchell, it came up to about $1.25, per person per county. But the thing that I noticed, and I couldn't really find any answers on it, is that there's some things in there that I couldn't find an answer on. I don't know who they all provide a service for, how many, what counties, but there was some indication there that there were other counties that were involved in this too, and I'm not quite sure, who they all were. I think, is that the one I mentioned to you this morning, or was that the other one, Stephanie?
That's when you were mentioning Brown County and Webster.
Brown County and Aberdeen, Sioux Falls were a couple of other counties that are served by this. And I couldn't find anywhere in the packet of materials that we were supplied with that they provide any funding at all for this. I just wanted to make you aware of it, that we are the only city funding, and we are, we have given 12,000, I believe it was $12,000, or 9,000, yeah. It was 12,000. It was 12,000 previous years. We took them down to $9,000 last year. So just making you aware of that, this is what I come up with in my research looking at that one there, okay?
But it was reported in the paper last week, it was 7,500 a year ago, and Davidson County upped it 500, I believe, to 8,000.
Did they?
It
But actually,
was-
Davidson County is actually, if you compare it population-wise, they are actually lower than the other 9 counties that are involved in it. So they're not paying the same amount, per citizen per se, as the other counties are. And I guess they can thank the city, whatever we do put into this tonight, we're adding to their donation because we are the only city that does this. So just want to make you
It
aware of
was,
that.
yeah, it was also noted in that article that they lost their lunch subsidy due to United States Department of Agriculture regulations, but, that's part of the process.
The other issue is too, because of population issues, a lot of their residential programs are headquartered in Mitchell as opposed to other counties. So I just think, there are some of these other places, I think Dakota Counseling, for example, does great work, but you've got some insurance that you can go after there. And here, it's really all public funds, which are not going up. And if we go back to 9,000, we are also not going up. But for some of the most vulnerable people who are happy to see you and to do the best job they can in their jobs in the community, to cut their funding in half, I think is pretty heartless.
You mentioned Dakota Counseling, so I'll comment on that one, because that was the second one that I was going to comment on, but it's the same situation there. We've got 8 counties that pay $25,624, and they've requested from the city $62,000. And what was proposed for the balanced budget was $25,000. But the thing that I have noticed is that on those 8, it's not just those 8 counties. I mean, they provide a wide array of services, and I commend Dakota Counseling for everything they do. But it is a county service, and again, we are once again the only city funding them, and so we're putting in $62,000 toward their total budget, where the proposed budget that Stephanie put in the budget was $25,000. Last year in Dakota Counseling, we gave them $50,000. Every year going back to 2007, and I don't even know if it goes back further than that, but we've always given them $62,000 up till last year.
One of the things that I considered when I was thinking about both of these is that while it's true that we as a city are giving more, certainly Dakota Counseling is serving a greater number of Mitchell citizens than probably people in the outlying counties. So I think that it is something that is directly affecting the citizens of our community. And I wondered about the same thing about the Adjustment Training Center. I wondered if we have a higher number of Mitchell people that are residents there.
We are the largest county.
Right. So in that regard, I was thinking, in my mind, I can justify us giving a larger portion because they're serving the people. They're directly serving more people from Mitchell than probably any
I have
other
no
city.
problem with the council doing, what the council does, but, I just want to remind you all that, it's like you said, Jeff, when you started out, anything that we put in or add to it, to this structurally balanced budget, we have to cut somewhere else. And we've already, when we submitted this budget to you, we've submitted a budget of $451,000. So, that's off the backs of the department heads who have sacrificed budgeting projects, whether it be equipment, salaries, or whatever. That's where that $451,000 cuts came from. So everything we put back in, we're going to have to cut that much more. And just want you to keep that all in mind.
Okay. We got a motion and a second. All in favor to take them up to $9,000? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That one's in. Dakota Counseling, we just had some comments from the mayor on that. Anybody else want to chime in?
I guess I would make the motion we take them back to the 2017 value of $50,000.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, Mitchell Area Safe House. Last year we gave $4,500. They requested $5,000. It's in the budget at $2,250.
Again, I would move that we put them at $4,500, the same as we did in 2017.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. So Davison County Search and Rescue. Stephanie had explained to us that we had included into there, obviously some increases into our budget. Last year we gave $1,750, and the request was $1,750 again this year. And at this point, there is not anything in there.
What's that?
Well, this is, yeah, this is one of those things where I think, you can't know now. Maybe nothing happens in the next 12 months, or maybe there's 47,000 incidents. And I guess I would rather deal with a funding request later as a more defined need became apparent than putting money in at this point. I'm not arguing that there might not be a need, but it's like fires. Some years you have a lot, some years you don't have any.
Lyndon, I got a question for you. Do they help with special events or anything in Mitchell, the fire and rescue?
They do help us with a number of events, including the rodeo, parades,
Do they get paid for
concerts. No, they donate that.
They donate their time
They
for
do.
all this.
Yep. Storm spotting, that helps the whole community, but concerts are another one throughout the year.
Even on the Corn Palace shows, they
They do.
that too? Or
Yep.
nothing?
They help with security.
And so that is saving us money in the long run.
Yeah, it would.
So if we,
Regular payroll, yeah.
if we didn't fund this, tell us the ramifications from your perspective.
I don't know what their take would be on it then. They're not obligated to help us out with any of these, but I have not visited with them on this to say whether they, what impact this would have, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know exactly either. I know I got a couple phone calls from a few people on search and rescue, and I don't know if there's somebody out here that wants to talk a little bit more about it, but I know, and I don't know exactly how their allocations all work and things they do, but I think we all got to, consider too is what, when the storms get a little bit messy out there, and it just happened recently, I live next to one, and he jumps in his vehicle and out to run around, and obviously being that person that has to maybe make that phone call and get the citizens on alert if there's something in the area, and we all know that a lot of these go to good cause, but I also think that for the small amount that we're looking at, if it's something that's going to be used in worthy for the citizens of Mitchell and protect them from not just storms, but other things like Lyndon said that they do, other things besides that, but I think it's a minimal request, and I know a few of them that were on there, they may not know why there wasn't proposed on it, but they said that if you can get it back in, then we'd really appreciate our help on it, so just voicing their concern of their thought that they said to me, so.
Lyndon, if somebody requests a police officer and they're going to pay, like for a parade or prom or whatever, what do they give us for an officer?
If who?
What I'm trying to figure out is, right, if Davison County Search and Rescue said, fine, don't give us the $1,750, instead we will charge you X amount of dollars per person per event. I'm just wondering.
I don't know what they would charge.
Right, but I'm wondering what we charge for a cop.
Oh, we charge the overtime rate plus like 24%. So a lot of times we're at about $40 an hour
So it wouldn't take
on
too
most,
many
on
events
most
to
of
eat
these
up-
events.
No.
And a lot of the events are minimum 2 hours
All they gotta do
overtime.
is say no.
Yeah.
They don't have to. They don't have to.
I know what I said like 14 seconds ago, but if I were Davison, if I were Davison County Search and Rescue and I didn't get any money, I think I would go to a fee structure.
Right.
But is the say the $1,750, they're not paying their people with that, they're purchasing things with
Right.
that, aren't
Right,
they?
that's just operating expense because
Yeah.
people do not get paid. They're all
Yeah,
volunteers.
so it goes to whether they get to buy
A radio.
a radio or something that they think update something in the van or the RV that they have or whatever.
Is 1750 enough to make them mad and not want to do these events?
Well, that's,
I mean, that's pretty cheap,
That's where we're at.
that's kind of,
I would say.
I know
That's
the events
a
that I've
legitimate
attended, I
question.
always see one or two of them in, running around.
The other things they come out to is most all the major fires or any SWAT type incidents, they'll bring that command post out, like you
Yep.
said. Not all of them, but a few of them will.
Right.
And I heard the rodeo committee uses them too a little bit.
Right, we use them for traffic out there.
I do think we should clarify that for some of those special events, it's not the city paying those fees. It gets charged to the event, just for anyone
yeah,
listening
they
who
hire,
might not know
they
that.
Yeah.
quote unquote hire a city employee to provide their security.
I'm going to make a motion to leave it at the 2017 request of $1,750.
I'm gonna second you.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
No.
Carried. Okay. Mitchell Advisory Council, I understand that the application came in late, is that correct?
Yeah, they did not meet the deadline. I don't know if they ever did submit an application to you. No, they called after the deadline and asked if they could still submit, and we said the deadline was the deadline. So it's still on there in case they still appealed to the council due to previous funding.
Okay.
We
Are you
did
gonna
not-
send
we-
a-
We
are you-
didn't open it up to anybody else to apply after the
Yeah.
date either.
Well, since they didn't apply, we're probably not sending them a letter either.
I can still send them a notice that.
Maybe that would be
Yeah.
good, and then that way, if they do want to come in, they're more than welcome. Municipal band, we were at 10,250 last year. They requested 12,955. Currently in at 5125.
We were reviewing that one, we thought that was a pretty high dollar amount. Stephanie, you were going to do a check on other communities to see what they were doing in like in here in Brookings and Yankton. Did you come up with anything on that?
I found the highest one to be right about 5,000. I don't know if that's a good comparison point. There was 4, I believe, that I heard back from on the list that I sent out. But it's your prerogative what you funded at. This was really just an effort to try to be consistent in the way that these were plugged into the budget. So that's your decision to
Sure.
make.
We just thought we were awful high on that one for a dollar amount.
It is quite a bit higher than what I heard back from the other first-class municipalities that responded that were funding their bands at all. For example, Yankton was at 3,000.
But do we know how, I mean, so Yankton's 3,000, is that one performance or two? Do we know how it relates to the number of performances
I didn't
or
ask for
anything
the
at all?
number of performances, no.
So it's a little difficult to compare, I guess.
I know they're well attended out there.
Oh, ours, yeah.
Ours
the
are.
Hitchcock Park gets 300-400 people when they have
Waiting in
at
line,
least. As I will move that we put them back at the 2017 level of 10,250.
We have a motion?
Second.
We got a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
No.
Carry. Okay, the Exchange Club fireworks, that's currently at $10,000. I'm assuming everybody's okay with that? That was last year's amount, and that was this year's request.
Go ahead.
Marty?
Go ahead, Marty.
I am perfectly okay with this, and I'm glad it didn't go down, because I'd have been fighting to go right back. The biggest thing I think that we need to consider is everything is getting more expensive down the road. It doesn't have to be this year, but it depends on what's going on, but council down the road. Those shows aren't getting any cheaper, I'll guarantee you. And if we want to keep us on the map on coming to Mitchell during the 4th of July, especially now with this coming up this next few years during the middle of the week, you got to give people a reason to want to come to Mitchell, no doubt about it, no matter when it is. And like I said, it doesn't have to be after this year with everything else that we're sort of putting back in here. But I think the city really needs to consider of keeping that in place in mind down the road here pretty soon, because the last increase was in 2014. We know they're getting more expensive, and I want to make sure that people choose Mitchell to come on 4th of July and not go the other direction 50 or 60 miles one way of the way. So
So
just
Marty,
that food for thought for down the road.
just when I was reading the background materials, am I correct that the total cost for the show this year was 14? Is that right?
Yeah, it was just slightly under 15, yeah.
So the Exchange Club pays the additional 4,000?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the way I must, yes, that they play the difference, correct, so.
Okay, we'll leave that one as is. The Mitchell Prehistoric Indian Village. Last year we gave 13.5. The request was 18,000. And as it sits right now, we've got 13.5 into the budget. Sure. I thought I'd just get a sense of what the council is thinking, and then if I see Jerry and Cindy out there, if you want to make some comments. We got the book and got your information. If you got some other things you would like to add to it, you're more than welcome. That'd be fine.
Good afternoon. As always, I'm prepared. Danny? Yep. Pass these down, thank you.
Are you live streaming this, Stephanie? Cindy, could you say your full name so people that are listening know who you are?
I'm Cindy Gregg. I'm the director of the Mitchell Prehistoric Indian Village. And first, I gotta say, you know, we really, really appreciate your support, the city's support. We do not get federal funding and do not ever anticipate getting federal funding for our site. And our state funding is very, very limited. It is restricted to our intern program. So we're asking that you consider our increase for funding to the village to 18,000. And the main reason is we have been impacted severely by the road construction. We all know what Burr looks like and how difficult it can be if you're a stranger to town to transverse. Main Street closed most of June and then closed for a week in July. Minnesota closed for several days in July. Indian Village Road was closed for 3 days this summer. Because of that closure, we lost 2 bus tours. And while bus tours aren't the big thing in our business, we are trying desperately to get more bus tours, and so that didn't help us this year. We've done a variety of things to work with what's happened this year. We've cut our staff dramatically, and I am working right now with a skeleton staff, and we've also reduced our annual budget for next year by $10,000. We've cut back on all our expenses, our gift shop, our overhead, our utilities, our office supplies, everything, to help deal with this. We're working with other institutions. We continue to work with other institutions for grants. And the partnership that the city entered with us back in 2005 for the foundation search software has been just so beneficial to us. We've raised an average of $60,000 to $70,000 per year from the sources on foundation search. But those funds are for specific programs, not for operating expenses. And they're not annual gifts. We're not guaranteed them every year. We do have to apply each year. Incidentally, our subscription to Foundation Search expires at the end of this year. At this point, we do not have the funds available to renew our subscription. And then, you know, you can see from the letter here, we've worked for the last 40 years to meet all our shortfalls when they occur, and this year is really no different. We're down in attendance by about 21%, and I checked those numbers again today, and it's 21.2% today. A lot of good things have happened, though. We've got we got over $250,000 in the past 2 years to remodel the Bainan Memorial Museum and to add the native gardens and the new sculpture garden. You know, the sculpture in front of City Hall is now at the Indian Village. The gardens around it were just completed, and it's absolutely gorgeous. We've completed our 14th annual summer field school with Augustana University and the University of Exeter. The team is 20 students plus the professors, the grad students, all that. We don't pay for this at all. This is done at their expense, and it averages about $30,000 a year to have this happen out at the Indian Village. But they contract with a local motel, with a local restaurant, and with a local grocery store for room and board for all of these people. And that's a big source of income for these establishments. Coming from us. We've had researchers come to the village, and this is something that's been happening with more frequency in the last few years. We've had researchers from around the world come to the village to further their studies on whatever it is they're studying, whether it be dog bones, fox bones, mollusks, whatever. We're excited to see them. So that really puts us on the map in the scientific world. We have new programs and old programs. Our Boy Scout Merit Badge program is attracting more and more Boy Scouts from all over the country every year. Our cultural programs have expanded. We have 2 coming up in September that look like they're going to be sold out. And our new technology project, I don't know if I talked to you folks about it last year. I was pretty excited about it last year. I'm still over the moon with it this year. Connecting the Past to the Present has been installed in the Archeodome, and we're working on the installation part in the Technology Center in the museum. The response to this new technology program has been very, very positive. Everybody loves it, and the audience that we wanted to target the most is the audience that loves it the most, and that is the young people. They are just really into this technology project. It's great to see them getting so involved. So we do want to ask, you to consider raising us to $18,000. I do want to point out, most importantly, that our board, and I apologize for not having the entire board here, but they do have jobs and careers or on vacation and all that. But our board is committed to the village, and they have committed to match any funds that the city gives us over the initial $13,500 that the city has proposed. And I think that is pretty outstanding of any board of directors.
Cindy, how much is that subscription that you say you can't afford?
We purchased a 5-year subscription, and it was $8,000. We made that money we made more than that amount of money back within the first 6 months. It's an amazing software program for finding grants and grantors. Our biggest donors right now have come from that program. So.
And the renewal is also $8,000?
If we want to renew for another $5,000 or another 5-year period, a 1-year renewal would run around $4,000.
Oh.
So it's beneficial to go the 5 years. You save a lot of money. It's an excellent program. And it updates constantly, and that's what I like about it. It updates. It adds new grant sources. It updates boards of directors. Everything, So, any other questions for me?
Cindy, I was looking at your financial statement or the budget for 2018. It's got the city of Mitchell. Obviously, you've got your request of $18,000 in there. Up above, on the 4th line, it has city for $17,000. Does that ring a bell?
That's from last year. That is a typo.
Oh.
Okay, that should have been removed. Yeah, last year's request was for $17,000, and we were given $13,500. Yeah, that line item should just disregard that.
Okay, all right, just making sure.
Yeah. I did not see that.
Other questions for Cindy? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, I'll just start out and just point out that I think one of the things that I like about the village is their willingness to meet us partway on any any commitment over and above the 13.5, the board will match that dollar for dollar. So we're always looking for organizations that are willing to show their commitment and put some skin in the game. So I'd like to see us make an increase.
Okay, other thoughts?
I would like to see us raise that by $3,500 and maybe go to the $17,000 mark that we had last year, the $17,000 from last year. Is that what we
Well,
gave? Last
that
year
was
we-
the request last year.
Right.
They got
That was-
13.5,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, for discussion purposes, I'll second.
Okay, so that's.
And I guess, yep, so discussion, my comment, and I know and remember some of the history when we were told, they stood up here and told us they will not ask for a single dime after the loan was forgiven. And then lo and behold, they have come back and asked again. In light of where we are with other entities, other tourist areas that are asking for money, we're not given any increases, and I guess I can't support an increase. The Indian Village, the $250,000 loan was paid off by the city, and we were told they wouldn't ask for any more money. You go back 5-6 years, and they came back and we're in dire straits. We did the sewer project and put in city sewer for them, which was on the city's cost. Other things, if their business model isn't panning out, then I guess I look at them like any other entity in town, that they'll have to cut where they need to cut, just like the city's having to cut. So I guess I won't be voting in support of an increase.
And I understand those sentiments, and it is difficult when we're not giving increases to anybody else. And every business on Burr, I think, could make the same argument as far as business goes. I think one of the differences is, and we've had emails back and forth on this, is that, first of all, I think out of all the private entities, the Indian Village has really done the best job of getting outside money and creating opportunities and those kinds of things. And then we're having some argument about the semantics, but if they cease to operate, as the Dakota Discovery Board ceased to operate, and Dakota Wesleyan then was given the Dakota Discovery Museum with the covenants and so forth to operate, we'll get this property back. Now, we don't have to operate it. We don't have to run an Indian Village. But we would be obligated to maintain the facility. You know, we couldn't let it run down. And because it's an archaeological dig with the remains of dead natives, you can't, put a housing project on there and those kinds of things. So to some extent, well, I understand the sentiment. To contribute to financial collapse is really cutting off our noses to spite our faces.
Anybody else? The one thing that I want to point out too is Cindy did note that 5 years ago we did do a special amount by the council to help buy the software, and it has been, sounds, and you look at it, that they're utilizing it to the full extent, and they are gaining support, or actually funds from the particular software. I guess I'm looking at this as we're on a 5-year renewal, and if we do want to help them continue, the extra funds, that's what I would be looking at. If anybody votes in favor of this, it would actually then move toward being able to utilize that software again for the next 5 years. I think everybody can accept the fact that getting a 5-year for $8,000 or a 1 year for $4,000 does not make much sense at all. But again, I appreciate everybody's comments, and it was correct that, again, on operating side, we did say to the city, keep it the same. And so I can appreciate Steve's comments also. But I wanted to just add that again, we did support it initially, and we knew it was 5 years, and more than likely, whoever was there back then, more than likely knew that when it came around that we were probably going to be asked to add a little bit more. So in my mind, that would be somewhat of a difference of instead of looking at it as a large increase, it's somewhat of a 1 every 5 years. And what happens in the future, we can discuss that, but in my mind, that's somewhat justifying the amount of increase right now.
If I may, Jeff, their operation is pretty lean. They don't waste a lot of money, and they're careful how they spend their money. So I'm supportive of somebody who operates like that.
Anyone else? So we've got a motion and a second, and it's going to be adding an additional 3,500. So it'll take us up to 17,000. That was your motion, right?
That was my motion.
Okay.
One quick question.
Yes.
Then next year we'll go back to the 13.5 or what they want?
That's next year's council's
Okay,
decision.
okay,
But in reality, it's however they want to take it next year, but it could be part of the discussion.
Okay.
Yep.
If only you knew what sales tax would be next year,
Yeah, that's
right?
exactly right.
And it's how well you remember. I mean, Steve brought up some things from, before some of the time with the other people on the council.
I think Stephanie will remember. Okay, anything else? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Carried. Okay, next one is the Mitchell Aquatic Club. We all know the unique circumstances there. Last year we gave $10,200. The request was for $12,000. That's what we used to give them. And right now we do not have anything in the budget.
I'm of two minds on this. On the one hand, they do need to operate under current conditions for a while. And they are raising, a substantial amount of money for us. I would also like us, and obviously this is not the place, but I would also like us to revisit the fees so we're not getting it out of them 3 times. So I have no idea what an appropriate amount would be, though.
Well, I'll chime in the same as I have the last 2 years. We don't pay any other clubs in town to operate, and I still don't understand why we're paying MAC to operate. We don't give the Hockey Association any money. We don't give tennis any money. We don't pay softball to play softball, but we pay the swimmers to swim.
To add to that, Steve, they are another one that told us a couple years ago that if this pool goes through, we will not come back and ask for this $12,000 again.
And I can understand that, but they still have half of 2018 to operate.
I know,
so.
but we do not have a contract with them yet as far as, the lane cost. And when we had our consulting services come back with their recommendations, they're recommending $18 per lane. And they've come back and they want $6 a lane. Now, Sioux Falls charges $5 a lane, but they also have 330-some members and a lot more funding sources than what we have. So if you look at the fact that we've got 70 swimmers, and I'm not even sure on that number whether that's correct or not. The only way them numbers are going to come down, I think, is if membership goes up. Because right now, if we look at what's been proposed by the consultant, we're going to have a deficit of $74,304, which is what the city is going to pay into it. So the total cost of expenses is $744. If we put that $12,000 in there, that's going to raise the total cost of up to $133,744, which means then that the city will be subsidizing every athlete. If we go with the $18 lane, we're looking at $677.71 per athlete. If we add the $12,000 in, that number goes up to $849.14 per athlete. And I bring those numbers up because if we compare them to the other sports, is what you're making a reference to, hockey and figure skating get $403.21 per athlete. Baseball, softball, soccer, and football gets $159.80 per athlete. Tennis gets $5.21 per athlete. Skateboarders, there's about 70 of them in that club. No, there's 180 of them in that club. They get $1.12 per athlete. And then you look at the pool, and we're talking $677.71 if we negotiate a contract at $18, but they want the $6. So that has to be determined yet. I just wanted to throw those numbers out there so you're all aware of them.
And I understand what you're saying, Steve. The only difference, I think, between those sports is, we provided a place for them to play. Now, hockey's a little different because they're paying fees and raising money. So I understand the hockey's over here. But when you're talking about tennis and baseball and soccer, they have a place to play. And this was all precipitated when the school closed that pool. And then they didn't have, any place to swim, especially in the winter.
What's maybe some of the thoughts on, I think you mentioned half a year they have next year before the pool actually gets open if we take a look at the allocation of making it half of the 12 and go to 6. Just food for thought or just for comment.
Or 10-2 last year.
Okay, 10-2.
But they request.
Right.
And just for a timeline, the pool is supposed to be operational in the beginning of June, so you'd have 5 months of it.
They requested 12.
Okay, maybe Steve will agree or disagree, but one of the reasons that I had supported this in the past is we did have a pool that we have been designing and now building, thankfully, but it's been several years, and where I came from is if we did have an active club in town, it would not have probably been worth us building that pool, because what we are looking at is trying to get people to come to Mitchell and stay the weekends and so forth, that driving people to town for the increase in the sales tax. And so go ahead, Jerry.
I'm just going to throw one more thing out there too. Even if we did not approve this 12,000 or 6,000 or whatever, it's kind of what we have the Sports Event Authority for too. That they're having a tournament and they want to, and they come to our Sports Event Authority meeting and say we're requesting 2,000 for this meet or 3,000. We can always give them money through that avenue also. We can just throw that at you.
Yep, that is true. But I look at this as keeping the existing facility. They're going to have to be in it for 5 or 6 months, and I guess that's why I would support at least 5 months or 6 months, whatever. And it may not get approved, but that's kind of the history we've had with them, and so they are still in the old bubble pool, and they know that can go any minute, but right now they still have the expense.
Well, to get us off the dime, I'm going to move that we grant $5,000.
Second.
Any other discussion?
Stephanie, can you just show us what the total impact is? Can you just kind of give us? Huh?
Without the 5,000?
Well, with or without. I just wondered if it would be easier for me to see where we were at.
You're at $42,125 of increases to the general fund expense that you'll have to reduce.
Okay.
That's without the 5,000.
Is there any way we could have that running total? Like, can you just slide it up? Do we need
I
to
can
see
make it
that? Yeah,
smaller
like-
and then
Well, no,
my
not necessarily.
old
I
eyes
just wondered
can't
if we-
see it.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe if you just moved it up a little bit. But.
We have a choice of reducing general fund expenditures or having a smaller reserve. That's the other choice.
Contingency.
Which would be an expenditure budget.
Okay, we've got a motion.
Right, but just a second, it's shells is what it is. I mean, we can put it in here and take it out there and put it in here and take it out there. I just want to be clear, we don't necessarily have to say, for example, we're not going to do the Sanborn repair because the swimmers get 5,000.
Right, I just wanted to be clear that we wouldn't be taking
Yeah,
it from our
and
cash.
keep in
reserve.
mind, we are approving this right now just as a consensus. We are not approving this budget. If we decide that we are not taking anything out of either contingency or finding another expense or raising a revenue, these are all or not. So that's why I thought is we would first see what's on everybody's mind, and then we're going to circle around at the end and see if the funds are available. So that's a good point. Yeah,
Good point.
We've got to.
Yeah. And I was just trying to make sure people know we're not taking it out of our savings to balance.
Right. Okay, anything else? We've got 5,000 on the table as a motion for the MAC. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, we've got a new request this year from Mitchell Animal Rescue, $10,000. And I don't believe we have ever supported that in the past or
It was
funded
a
that.
new
We support it,
request.
but not funded.
Yep, it was a new
Choice of
request
words.
for us this year. Just
Maybe
for
I
those
should
that,
share it with you.
maybe those that
Yep.
weren't at the last work session, my rationale to the council at the last work session for both this and the other new request is we didn't approve any new requests for departments for new programming or services.
I'm looking at this email, and maybe I should know, but I don't understand some of the logic. I understand the logic behind euthanizations. But how is it that the city has saved money by Mitchell Animal Rescue by increasing revenue, and I'm quoting now the email, increased revenue into the city by advertising animals in the city pound, which promotes increased owner claims and adoptions from the pound? Do people pay to rescue animals? I mean, if I go to the pound and I say, give me Fluffy over there, do I pay a fee? Or do they just give me the
I
dog?
think they have to pay shots and all that stuff that they give the dogs, or if they've been neutered, or cats, or whatever they are, I think. I don't
Do they,
know that-
Linda?
I don't know that for a fact, though, but
What was the question?
Well, I'm just going to read from the email again. Mitchell Animal Rescue has increased revenue into the city by advertising animals in the city pound, which promotes increased owner claims and adoptions from the pound. So I've never adopted from the pound. Do you pay a fee to do that?
They would have to pay for the immunizations, and they would also prevent any euthanization charges that the city would have.
And I'm
That's the
I'm
alternative.
guessing when I read
That's the
that,
alternative.
yeah, that's also saving, no, I don't.
I get the euthanizations, but do we really give dogs shots before we kill them? I mean, it's like sterilizing the needle for lethal injection.
No, that's before they would go out, if somebody would want to adopt them or take them back.
But if somebody adopts them, we don't gotta put them to sleep.
Right. No, I
So
get the,
That's the big cost savings. Is what
I get the
they're trying to say.
euthanization,
Yeah.
but this other business, I didn't understand.
Let's increase it.
How many animals do we euthanize in a year, roughly?
I do not have those numbers here.
Well, it says it saved 300. It doesn't say how many are euthanized. I mean, are they saving 300 and 5 get euthanized, or are they saving 300 and 2,000 get euthanized? I mean,
Right now, about the only ones getting euthanized would be like feral cats, or if it's dogs that have bit people or are considered dangerous, and the owners do not want to pick them up. Otherwise, most all of them would get adopted out.
Here it looks like, Bill, in 2016, 12 were euthanized. So far this year, between dogs and cats, 10.
10. Were you, 10 were euthanized? Is that what you're saying? I think they have a pretty large network of foster families who foster these animals until they're adopted.
Is there anybody in the audience that would want to make a couple comments on this? We probably shouldn't do
You
that.
didn't have me send notices to the
Oh, yeah,
allocations
that's
requesting
right.
that they come here. You were going to do that after this meeting.
Oh, that's
So
right.
there's very likely that they won't be here.
Okay.
I know that we had one here, but I just want to make
Okay.
sure I said that so you're not wondering why there aren't more.
Well, is there a direction? Somebody would like to? It's not in the budget, so unless somebody wants to make a motion to include it. And I don't see that at this point, so we'll move on, and if they'll want to come in and make additional information than what they have given us, we can certainly. Okay, pretty much the same thing, a new request for Mitchell Snack Pack. They requested $1,600. Any discussion? Since it's new, I guess we'll just keep it off to the side for now, and you can send the notification out. Okay, CASA. Last year was 4,000. They requested 5, and it's in the budget at this point at 2. Anybody have any thoughts? Hearing none, we'll move on. And we'll send the letter out. Okay. Stephanie kind of walked through us on the South Dakota Small Business Development Center, gave us some information. So the request was 3,000, and right now we do not have anything in. We did give 2,500 last year.
I noted in the background material that there's 8 businesses that are being served this year, as opposed to in past years 17, 25, up to 53 in 2011. And 8 does seem like not a lot of people that they're helping. I don't know if those people that use them pay a fee, but I'm not sure that there's a viable $3,000 expenditure there.
Anybody had any other thoughts? Okay. We'll move on. District 3 dues, I don't think that's even probably worth discussing.
Yeah, you
every
have
year.
to pay the amount that they list
Right.
or else you can't be the member.
Yep, and then we all know the benefits of that. So, Mitchell Area Development Association, Stephanie kind of walked us through there.
And just for anyone that may be sitting in the audience, that's not an actual increase. It's the same funding level as last year, but it's taking the funding they got from the entertainment tax and the general fund and paying it all out of one fund, out of the general fund. So it is a flat dollar amount from
Right, you'll see the
2007.
reverse coming in down below as we
Yeah.
get to it.
I just
So-
didn't want someone to be surprised when they see that up there.
The $68,000 offset.
Okay. Mitchell Main Street and Beyond, request was 35. We gave 35 last year, and we have proposed the same 35. Anything there?
Are we leaving regional economic development?
Oh, I skipped over that one, didn't I? Thank you. 30,000, and that's the same as last year, same as requested, and that's what's in the budget. Was that in the paper today that they were, in the chamber I saw they were delivering a house down in Corsica, so it really does get utilized, so I think it's a very good program that we've got in place, and they really help a lot of the areas that can't afford to have a development director. So Dave Lambert does a tremendous job in going out and helping them through different projects.
And maybe for people listening saying, why would we care about these small towns?
Oh.
Without that trade area, we die. So it's in our best interest to keep those small towns full of people and vibrant, and for us to be their Sioux Falls.
And also coming to Mitchell to work.
Right.
Yep. Thanks for the comments. That's appropriate. Okay, so we'll leave the 30,000 in the development, or the Mitchell area development, and then the regional economic development. I see we got some chamber people back here. If you're more than welcome to chime in if you want, or we'll just keep going. Okay. Okay. Yep. So we got Mitchell, Main Street, beyond. Is that the one? Okay, any comments there? It's the same.
Jeff, when I had looked at this, I had highlighted that. That just seemed like a lot of money that the city is giving to Mitchell, Main Street, and beyond. And I don't know, it seemed like a big part of their annual budget came from the city.
Right.
And then it just struck me, and I wanted to think about that, talk about that, and so and hence I highlighted it as a topic. It just, we seem to have given them quite a bit of money year after year, and
Yep, so that's a good point.
been well spent.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and basically over the years, what's been presented to us is help covering the costs of salaries for that, and then you can argue one way or the other if it's well spent. I do know that they have increased the amount of activity for this association, and they continue to do that. And I know Jen is out here, and she's the director.
I guess the one point that I would make too is that board is currently working on Main Street redevelopment, and at least in my proposal, the reason why I kept it flat is I do believe that if you can make a turn on our Main Street, that's going to be significantly important to our community as a whole. If there wasn't a push for that Main Street redevelopment, it might be a different discussion too.
My son just went to Minneapolis for a concert, some rapper, I don't know. But when we're in Minneapolis, we like to go downtown, Nicollet Mall. And I wasn't there, and he was there, and he was sending me pictures and texts, and they're experiencing in Minneapolis exactly what we're experiencing on Main Street. And you think about all the challenges that Main Street has, first of all, you've got, Sioux Falls and Minneapolis, Omaha. And then, of course, there's the ubiquitous internet and Amazon in particular. And then we're seeing it on 3rd Street when we have a Main Street that's over 100 years old. And, people may wish to maintain their buildings, but the expense. So when I look at all the people who come to the Corn Palace, 250, 350,000, whatever it is on a year, some of those people are looking to relocate, either their business or themselves. And what they see first is the drive-in corridors, and those are going to be greatly improved by the Burr Street project and the Sandbridge Street project. But then the next thing they see is Main Street. And so you know, if they see a vibrant Main Street with things like, you know, the new Veterans Park and the Plaza and businesses, maybe that helps us recruit people to work or businesses to relocate. But if they see, and I'll put this in quotes, a dying town, then it makes that demise even faster. So I think this is money well spent, but I can certainly understand why you would, you know, question the amount of money.
Okay. Unless somebody wants to make a motion elsewise, it's in there for 35. The next two is the explanation again that Stephanie had emailed out to us. Any questions or comments? And then I guess the third one too is the regional marketing, of realigning of where they come out of the.
Right, and
the
just to
different funds.
reiterate, the discussion we had at the work session is keeping the funding level flat from last year at 238, but taking $30,000 from the CVB advertising into regional marketing to ensure that we can do that phase one of the marketing plan with Amperage. So it's just ensuring that we're doing that in addition to what we're already doing for tourism marketing. And then the one in between there, I should have put those in a different order. This one that's a 0 is due to development going up top in the general fund.
Okay. So there's the allocations, and we got a grand total of 47,125. So why don't we now move on to the capital expenditures? And maybe before we do that, though, there was that Stephanie had walked us through the last work session of items where we have included into the budget. We got a charrette at 30,000, and we all know that we have greatly benefited from Vision 2000 and Focus 2020, and this is going to attempt to look out 10, 15, 20 years to see what our city wants to look like, and so that's why we asked Stephanie to include that. Then we also have the retail study, which again could be very beneficial if if we go ahead and proceed with it. But we did have a comment I think Danny made, is the fact that would like to see a partner with that. So I don't know if anybody wants to discuss one or both of those.
I would like to leave it at, cut it to 25,000, and if they do get a partner with the chamber down the road, we can put it back and move on with the program. But I do believe that the city of Mitchell shouldn't fund the whole thing.
Or Development Corp,
That's
chamber,
correct.
whoever.
Wherever it comes from.
Okay.
Just to clarify, are you talking about the retail, so I'm on the right part of my spreadsheet?
Correct.
Okay.
Retail and development plan.
Dan, can you talk into your mic? I didn't quite hear what you were saying. I'd like to be clear on what you're looking for.
I'd like to have matching funds from your office.
Okay?
And if we do get matching funds, I would have no problem doing this. I think it'd be a good, but I just don't think the city council should be, and the citizens should be spending it all here.
Thank you.
And whether that's the chamber or development?
Chamber development, wherever you can get the money across the street.
So, so right now we've got 50,000 in the budget, and Danny made a motion to decrease that to 25,000 to hopefully find a partner that we could work
Absolutely.
50-50.
That's my motion.
I guess I would like to hear a little bit more about the benefits of that, and maybe could you come up and just talk to us a minute about it and what you
Not yet.
see? I guess
About
who
the
should I even
retail
be
study?
looking, the retail
That was-
study, yes.
That was me that put that
Okay.
in the budget. It didn't come from across the
Why
street.
don't you just talk a little bit?
And-
Before, can I just interrupt you a second? Okay, gotcha. All right, perfect.
Sorry,
Looked in.
sorry, my fault.
So again, as I said at the work session, my reasoning for putting that in there is just merely to get the community conversation started. We've seen other communities in the state of South Dakota who are actively pursuing retail development within their communities, and those are the ones that see sales tax increasing. And it's important to keep in mind that it doesn't just mean what new businesses can we bring to town, but it's also what kind of information can we give to our existing businesses so they know what market we have here that's going outside of our boundaries, so we can kind of try to capture that leakage as it leaves our community. The mayor and I have heard, well, we heard one proposal, we just got another proposal. The one proposal that we did like, they also look at a specific tourism aspect, that if you're located like we are on the interstate, we have our tourist attractions here, they will specifically look at the type of people that are traveling through our community on the interstate or coming to our tourist location to try to give that additional information to businesses in town as to what they can offer during that season to help boost their business as well.
And obviously, nobody likes studies if you're not going to have something positive come out of it, but how do you tell with the crystal ball? But what I can tell you, though, is 5 years ago when we went through and did our study with housing, is everybody knew where we were at with housing, and we needed it, but nobody invested any money into housing. We went, the Development Corp hired a company to come in, and we did a housing study, and after the housing study was completed, it showed where the vacancies were where they were at, and it was a huge need. And so they stated the obvious, but the only thing that, or the thing that did transpire after that is we had 6 new apartment buildings put up. And sometimes you do have to, I guess, point out the obvious. So we do know that there's ways to improve on the retail side and other, and I think Stephanie has seen it in other communities. And so, again, this isn't a sure thing, but I would say if the Development Corp or the Chamber would like to proceed with this with us, then I think it's going to be money well spent. But again, you're just going to have to somewhat trust. But we know that there's gaps out there, and sometimes you just need to draw that to everybody's attention.
So Stephanie, when they do this, they look at the I-90 core too, don't they?
Yes, they do. And the one representative that came and visited directly with the mayor and I, what was interesting to us is he said, we're really uniquely positioned with the interstate going to the south side of our community. And if you look at the development that's happened somewhat organically south of the interstate, he said, we're really missing a market because they can identify that traveling public that if they see this certain brand or this certain thing, they're going to stop off. And they do this by looking at credit card data of that public that's going down the corridor.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. One thing we did, when I was in Brookings, they worked with a similar retail development company. Actually, Sonia could probably speak to that. I believe she was at the Chamber and did some of the work with the local businesses at the time. But what we found, too, is that there was businesses in town that thought, oh, there's a market for women's shoes in town that we didn't know about. And when you go back to Brookings now, some of those things that were identified in that initial study, you see them offering that now in town. So it's kind of fun to see where businesses have expanded to meet that need that was identified in the leakage study.
You mentioned some cities that were involved in this. Brookings wasn't the only one.
Nope. Watertown, Brookings, Yankton, Pierre, Aberdeen has done it in the past. Watertown's just starting on theirs. But if you look at some of the expansion that Yankton and Pierre did with retail, that has somewhat impacted us a little bit here with certain markets. That's what they're doing. They're looking at where are the people who live in Pierre traveling to buy other goods and services, and then they're trying to offer that service in their community. So we'd be doing the same thing.
Very good.
Is the entire cost of this study $50,000, or is there more to come?
There's 2 different options, and I think that what you would probably want to do is you would want to put together a subcommittee to study both proposals. And there's 2 really different thoughts on this. There's one that will just kind of give you the package and say go, and then there's another one that will say, okay, if you can commit $50,000 a year for 3 years, they'll actually help you do your site recruitment versus having to just turn the information over to you. So what I would suggest is to have a committee put together to evaluate both of those proposals and determine which one's the best fit for Mitchell moving forward.
I don't know how they prove it either, but they said that for every dollar you spend with them, they guarantee you a return of $9 for every dollar spent. So that's what they say. So
Yeah.
how they document that, how they prove that, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what the claim is.
Well, like a banker.
Oh, yeah, that's true. We did talk about this at the work session, but for anyone else who might have been not aware of that, in other communities, when you look at retail development, that's typically something the city has paid for. So it's not out of line to ask for the city to contribute towards this. I know there was a question about whether this should just be all development, but this is usually something the city has a hand in as well.
Okay, motion and a second, Steve?
And I just want to comment on the community charrette, and I believe it's the Vision 2000 and Focus 2020, I think, have been invaluable to the city of Mitchell. My only question on the charrette is it possibly a year early? That's
Why do you
just
say that, Steve?
Are we, based on what we might find out, will we be ready in, so if it's 2018, we'll be ready in 2019 budget to pull the trigger, or will we really have to wait a year after that before we'll have the type of funds that
And
maybe some things that are identified there that we would have available?
Yeah, I wouldn't see you getting through a process with budget item readies for next year's budget.
No,
I
but
think
it would be
this is
it'd be a
whole
19.
next year.
1990.
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe, well, what year is this?
Yeah. So
2020
17, we're
is
doing
what
the
I was-
18 budget. If we did the charrette in,
I don't think you'd be ready for 19 budget.
we're not ready for 19
No,
budget.
because we'd have to
Okay.
have it by May, and I don't think you could get through a public charrette process that fast.
Okay, that's part of what I want. So to do that, the timing would be probably the second half of the year, and then the budget actually starting in January 2019 to the 2020 budget.
I guess that's how I had it playing in my head, just knowing you have to set up
Okay,
public
I
meetings.
wanted to talk out that timeline so that somebody saw that and say, well, you guys put that in there and then you didn't do anything with it.
And
Or it took too long.
Steve, just for clarification for people listening, you're talking about the big debt redemption that we're going to have in 20.
Well, potentially, and we have water study situation, and we have other things that are in that time frame. And we still got the lake on the plate and other things. So, maybe the timing is right. Maybe it could be delayed a year. I don't know. But the process of it is not a question in my mind of whether it's worth it.
And can you tell us how the $30,000, what is that spent on?
We got a couple cost estimates from other communities that did that. That's to bring them in over a 1 or 2 public input sessions. They usually identify community members in various demographics throughout the community, business leaders, just citizens, students, teachers. So it's the facilitation costs and putting the study together, the final results.
So you're hiring a firm. Would this be a firm that we're familiar with? Or?
I think we would do an RFP process. I just got the budget amount based on visiting with other communities that have had the process done. I don't know if they'll be sufficient. We'll have to see what the RFPs come in at when you do a request for a proposal.
Yeah, we've been fortunate in the past. We had a Jim Beto and a Mark Bowie that basically did this for the city of Mitchell with the Vision 2000 and Focus 2020. So the amount of time and coordination, and the chamber helped dramatically with both of those. It's $30,000 in today's dollars. You got to go back 30 years for one of them and 10 years for another, but it's still, you're paying for that coordination and those people's time.
They're still around.
And I think both those leaders have done a tremendous job. Sometimes it's kind of nice to have someone come in with fresh eyes just to take a look, and maybe they can see things a little bit differently. And who knows? Maybe we'll be hiring a local firm too. We don't know, but that's something I guess if we prove to keep in mind. So, anything else? Right now, we've got a motion to take it from 50 down to 25 on the retail study. Anything else we want to visit about on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that carries. And then the 30,000 charrette is in there unless somebody wants to make a motion. And she just typed no change.
I can untype it, so.
Okay, good. Now,
This is your net difference now.
okay, and that's a deficit at this point. So I think let's move into the capital expenditures unless somebody else has, was there anything else, Stephanie, that you
Only
wanted
other
to-
open items that I kind of noted on here is you did have a request for the additional staffing. I was going off the original direction of no new staff in the budget, so that's in there. Or it's not included in the budget, but it's up there in case someone wants
Right,
to
and we got
discuss
some
it.
information on it.
Yep.
Lyndon put together.
And then I did put together, was the beginning contingency amount. This is where we're currently at in the proposed budget. So as you get
Thank
into
you.
discussion, we can have that as part of your balancing as well.
Awesome. So at this point, just with the information Lyndon gave us on the 2 police officers, do we want to have a discussion on that, or are we comfortable with just leaving it the way it is and we can address it at a future date?
I guess I'm comfortable at where it is, looking at the data that was provided to us.
Okay. All right, and then you can see where the contingency is again. And so, can you bring the, oh, you got the capital expenditures up on top, don't you? Okay, perfect. Okay. I'm not going to go line by line because I think the majority of them have a lot of validity on keeping in. But I do know that some people want to have a discussion on 1 or 2 or a few of the items. So fire away whenever you want to.
I just have a question on the very first one. Scanner, are we listening to cop calls? What are we scanning?
No, it's actually a document scanner, but we found one in Public Works that we're able to repurpose, so we didn't need to purchase it. So we took it out. It's actually for the finance office. We took it out as part of our internal discussion.
Okay. I remembered that it was cut, but I didn't remember what we were scanning.
This is a small one, paint striper upgrade. Lyndon, what happened to the old one we got? We bought for 45,000, never used it, and trying to sell it for 10. What
Yeah,
happened
we
to
used
that?
it for a couple of years and it's still for sale. It's on eBay right now if you're interested.
Really?
Yeah. It's listed at 12,500, I think.
No bites.
Yeah, we got, somebody's interested, but they haven't bid yet, so we've got a recent email on it, so.
Why didn't it work?
It was designed for a bigger area than what we needed, I guess. Some new technology came out, like two or 3 years later, the small painters, which are much more user-friendly, that we went to. This is in very good condition, and it's been kept in a controlled, temperature-controlled environment for the last several years. We are trying to sell it, so.
I just want to make sure I point out, it was included in your proposed budget, but I left it off your last capital sheet, and I did point it out, the Northridge Park here, it was included in the budget, so it did not increase anything from where you saw, but I missed it accidentally when I was going through the list of 4-3 accounts. Just because it wasn't on the list last time, I want to make sure I pointed it out directly.
And for everybody's benefit, we did move, when we put the new tennis courts in at Hitchcock, we moved one of the baseball fields over to Northridge. And now we're utilizing that field and does not have bathroom facilities. And so I'm assuming, Nate, that was part of the reason for the request?
That's correct. We're also putting in a new playground as well.
And new playground equipment too, okay.
Is that the $45,000 playground that is on here?
No.
A different one?
We haven't, that was a request from the board. We haven't identified a location. That was to wait for the master plan.
So the $62,227 is for the bathroom and the playground?
No, just the bathroom. The 62,000
Yes.
is just the bathroom.
Okay.
The
But you said you're
playground
also
isn't being installed right now.
Oh, on this year's budget?
Yes.
Got it.
So Nate, was there discussion on we have bathrooms in other parks, but we also have picnic areas that are attached to it. Is this designed where we could maybe attach a picnic area to that or shelter? Was that any thought?
There's already a shelter at Northridge.
Okay.
Yep. There's a shelter there, a playground, and we got the new ballpark. So we really feel that that's a good place, even without waiting for the master plan.
So is it going to be located fairly close to the shelter where it could be rented out then?
That's great. It's in between the shelter and the ball field.
Okay.
There'll be a walkway to the big sidewalk on the south side too, to go to the bathrooms there too, or not? Mine is, I've got requests in the neighborhood, obviously I'm in Ward Street, there's so many people that walk that area, and they just said, when are you going to put some bathrooms at the new field? So is there going to be a walkway from the sidewalk to the new, or is there going to be just a goat path?
It included the path to get to the restaurant.
It does. Yeah, very good.
And I know I sent out a memo on this, but I do want to reiterate that the 3 items in red were the 3 top priorities park-wide by the Park and Rec Board, according to the director. So we don't think that was clearly made at the last meeting.
So the bathroom facility, refresh our memories again. We did budget, then we bid, and it came, was that part of what came in too high?
Yeah, it was way too high, but this is much less, and Nate can explain what the improvement is.
What specifically?
The bathroom remodel in the rec center, what's included?
That is just the fixtures. We still have money, so we bid out the roof because we wanted to address the roof issues. And that came in much lower than expected, so we're going to be able to do some of our bathroom remodel at the rec center, and some of that this year, and then that is just for the fixtures next year. So we're going to do some tiling in there this year.
And Nate, I use the rec center almost every day. What's wrong with the fixtures? Every fixture I've used there works fine.
It was part of the full rec center remodel project.
I know, but why are we replacing fixtures if they're all functional?
I think my understanding is it's coming to an end of its useful life, but
every shower I've used turns on, every faucet I use turns on, unless the women's ones are falling apart. They all work.
It would include the partitions, though, in the restrooms as well. Those are.
Okay. Is this in the locker rooms or?
That's correct.
Men and women's?
That's correct. And it would still leave probably $100,000 worth of projects we have to do in the locker rooms. Just part of the.
Because remember, the bids for the entire locker room remodel came in extremely over bid. The response we got back from contractors was trying to do a small piece of a total remodel in the middle of everything else going on was just the startup costs were what were so expensive. When you actually look at the quotes for the specific schedule items, they were pretty close to what Park and Rec had in their estimates. It's just that startup cost, the demolition, getting things ready, that was way over.
I guess I can't see it from experience of using the rec center.
So, Danny, you had mentioned the LED lights and had very good questions at the work session. And I think you and I have had some follow-up conversation about that. I don't know if you
Yes.
want to share any of that.
Now, what's the payback on that? And this is only for one field.
That's correct, and there's
8 fields out there.
That's correct. There's multiple parts to this. First off, we have the wood posts that are getting old. Some of them are leaning.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Maybe my age, I don't know.
Let me get a little closer. Part of the problem is the wood posts right now that we have are some of our aging and leaning a little bit. So that's part of one project that really doesn't have anything to do with the LED lights. If we were just switching out the old lights with the new lights, I don't have that actual cost right now. They're working on that, but so the cost recovery, the reason why it's $145,000 has to do because we're changing out the posts as well. And that's an infrastructure issue, kind of unrelated to the LED lights. So maybe there's other ways to look at it, is maybe replace them as we replace the posts, replace the lights at those times is what we could do.
Are the posts bad on all 8 fields?
I haven't inspected them or myself.
Is it just one field that they're bad on, or, I mean?
Well, we're changing them for the LED, not for the post right now. I mean, but we're doing the post at the same time. So it's
Because if we do 8 fields, it's like 1.8 million. If we continue to keep doing it every year,
That's
it gets
correct.
expensive.
That's correct. So I think the cost recovery of 5 years that they were talking about would be if we were just replacing the lights from 2 LEDs on a single post.
Well, and Nate, I guess I'm holding out, and I'm going to propose this is removed until I see the spreadsheet that has the cost recovery, because the numbers you gave me, you can't come anywhere near 5 years recovery. You can't even come 15 years recovery. And if you don't know how much you spent on electricity last year, you have no way to calculate how much you're going to save. And the email you sent me, you don't know how much you spent on electricity last year.
No, they have not been tracking it.
But we charge the teams.
That's correct.
I'm going to make a motion to deny the LED lighting for $145,000.
And I'll second. I have no problem doing a trial on that, especially on LED lights, to look at electrical savings, but I also would want to do them on lights that are used more than just 4 or 5 hours a day and 100 days a year. If we're going to look for the bang for the buck, Nate, you gave me an estimate that one of the fields, you thought the lights were on for 300 hours last year. Well, why don't we do a trial on lights that are on 5 or 6 hours a day for 365 days per year, so that we can get the cost savings? I understand the maybe ease of trying to do and look at the softball fields one at a time and that type of deal, but the other question I have for the softball fields, and you alluded to it, but again, we don't have any measurements of light quality. I'd like to know what the lumens measurement is in the fields when the current lights are operating correctly. And if there isn't a light issue, then the only thing we're changing the lights for is for cost savings. So I've been by the fields. I played on those fields. I was here when the money was raised to build those fields and those lights were put in place. And to this day, I have not heard anyone complain about light quality unless there are bulbs out. So I'm a little perplexed as to if we think we're going to save money with electrical costs, why we're not doing a trial on lights somewhere where they're on every day.
That's correct. We need to get more information to you. Yeah.
Okay?
When I was playing, we always had trouble with the lights. They were always in my eyes.
Okay, so sounds like Steve has made a motion and Danny made the motion, Steve second, and not that we don't think it's a good project, but maybe we need additional information and next year we can utilize the time to come back with more information and get their input from the Park and Rec Committee.
And I just want to explain one thing I have up here before you guys vote too. On the general fund impact, if it's a special revenue fund that receives a general fund transfer to balance the budget, it will bring that general fund down. So that's why you see them in both places. If you are making a change like in the water fund, we're using their cash reserve, so you won't see a general fund impact. You'll just see the enterprise fund. So
So that's because this is a park?
Yeah, that we
Okay.
transferred $2 million already from general fund over to parks. So I'm just showing you that as we go, and I wanted to explain in case you get somewhere else and you wonder why I didn't put them in.
So to Mel's point, which shell it gets put in or
Yeah,
taken out of?
It's the shell game.
Okay. Well, that's good information. Thanks, Stephanie. Okay, all in favor of taking it out of the 2018 budget?
Can I just ask
Yes.
one question? I'm going to vote for this motion, and I agree with Steve's philosophy, but is there anything we need to leave in just to replace lights in general?
Shouldn't that, and I guess that, is that in the operational budget? I mean, they should have.
Yes,
maintenance.
we have that in the budget to continue as we're.
Okay.
Yep.
And does that allow for the posts that need to be replaced?
We haven't really identified any posts that need to be
Oh, I
replaced.
see.
We were focusing on the LED lighting, but some more research that I've done, it's also the posts, and I want to look at it more along the lines, if we're going to replace the posts, that we would look at LED lighting at that point.
Are you working with the local firms with that or somebody out of town?
Must go, but we've been talking with Muth Electric, I believe.
Yeah, that's who does a lot of them anyway.
What does
So-
the Musco did?
See the LED lights. When will they have to change the lights again if we go with the LED lights? Do they last? How long do they last?
They last 25 years and no maintenance, and that's an issue for us because we spend probably about 3 different employees spending about 40 to 60 hours a year doing maintenance on those lights.
So I guess I was wondering about the leaning posts that you had mentioned early on. Can you straighten those? Is there any cause for concern about the fact that they're leaning?
I may know more about that than Nathan. When they were put in, under these fields is, well, at least a pole depth of pure sugar sand. So when they put these poles in, the sugar sand, whether they're 6 or 8 feet deep, the first 60-mile-an-hour wind that came up, that sugar sand doesn't hold much, so we saw poles starting to lean right away. It's really what they're set in.
So my question remains, do we need to do something to shore those up?
I'll have to look into it. Yeah.
Okay. Great. So it's 145,000 is what is being proposed to be taken out for this year's budget. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Okay, that has been taken out of the budget. I want to maybe stay on Park and Rec right now because, as Stephanie pointed out, there was 3 items that they had high priorities on, and one of them was taken out at this point, and we've already had some discussion on the remodel for the bathroom facilities, and Nate kind of explained what was going to be improved. And so I'd like to follow through with that at this point and get everybody's thoughts. So do we just leave it the way it is, or would you like to have the Park and Rec Committee and award this back into the budget since it was a priority for them?
And Steve, I have 4 other items on here that we could look at as instead of the fixtures.
Well, I know it's a priority. I guess what I was thinking, between now and our next meeting, can you get us more information about the specifics of the fixtures or why that's priority?
Certainly.
Or what actually would be making up 25,000 exactly?
Yeah, some more detail.
Okay, that'd be good. And maybe if you get that to Stephanie, she can email that out to us so we have it.
I think we
prior.
already have the quote, and I can send that information over.
That would have been in your department request packet that's linked on the Dropbox. So, but I'll send that out right away.
Okay, thank you. That's a good point, Steve.
Not that I'm eager to spend money, but if we're not going to spend the 145,000, is there any logic to talking about the skate park?
One of my comments that was made before one of our Park and Rec board meetings is going back to some other entities in town of groups and organizations that we have helped and benefited. That typically we see them come to the table with a little bit of funds and stuff like that. And from me sitting on the park board for a few years now and years on the council, somewhat taken by surprise on the skate park being part of our allocation right away at the beginning, because it really hasn't been talked about much in the past years, and all of a sudden, boom, I seen it there kind of attitude. And what I would like us to see is, I think it's something that needs to be done. I think it's a great thing. We see a lot of kids out there skating, and I'm glad they're there than other places in town. We all know that. But I also like to have them have a little meat in the game, so to say, and see if the organization can bring some funds to the table, just as every other entity did out here in town from our tennis courts that we just did. They brought some to the table, and everybody seems to be doing that. And I think that organization that might not have a so-called group of people that are governed, like we do have all these other ones, but there is a group of them kids out there. And if you guys remember the current one that we started with, the only reason why it happened is because a bunch of them came forward with us up here to the council, those that sat here years ago, and they came with proposals saying, if we raise $15,000, would you guys help us build a skate park? And if they wouldn't have came with that number, and I can't remember exactly 15,000, but I believe that was the number. If they wouldn't have came forward and done that, we would never have probably a skate park right now going on. But they did. We jumped in and teamed up with them. And I think for this next venture, I think that's what I'd like to see too, is from that group of individuals that are out there all the time. I'd like to see them come forward and say, hey, we're willing to go out and solicit some money and bring, whatever number that may be, 25 grand, but something to have them commit to, so they respect that park just as much as we want everybody else around to do. So I want them to have a little skin in the game, so to say.
Are we thinking that it's going to be in the same location?
Yeah, nothing would change, and we're going to use the same flat surface. We would add a bowl to that area.
It'd be additions.
That's
in
correct.
The same geographic area.
The 100,000 would cover the cost of the bowl. There's another 75,000 needed to replace the above ground features with newer features. That's where I was hoping we can get the local group involved to do some GoFundMe campaigns and also apply for some grants to see if we can't fully fund it at 175, but it would take a little bit of work to get there.
So Marty, you're saying get that stuff going in place and put it on next year's?
Right. Yep. We get them for the next year, getting organized and getting some things put together, and then let's put it towards next year's budget. So, have proposals. The other thing, Nathan, just going back, and I apologize, I was trying to look for an email that you sort of explained a couple things. Going back from the park board, a few things that we brought to the request table, and I know I have part of it back and forth, and it looks like on the email it's more Stephanie and you and me. At one point in time, we were talking about resurfacing 2 tennis courts for 11,000. Am I overlooking that? Did we?
It's not on the capital list. It's actually in your
Okay.
operational budget, so it is
Perfect.
still included, though.
I thought I was looking for
researched and
the.
made
I was
sure
looking for the
it's
email
there.
someplace.
Yeah.
I thought we had it in there someplace,
Yep,
and I can't
okay.
find it. So I just wanted to make sure that didn't get.
And Marty, and I guess the other comment that I thought I heard, maybe I can't remember who I was talking to, is that the tennis association is in on part of that.
I thought at the board meeting, they said that if, and you guys, you might want to speak, but I thought they said if we do 2, they could potentially do the 3rd.
That's correct. They were going to do the 3rd.
Okay, good.
Yep. So they were
So
putting skin in the
keeping
game.
with our history of
Yeah, there you go.
keeping some skin in the game.
Yep. Okay. That's
I kind of
that makes
confused the
sense. You
process
okay
with
with
that.
that?
Sorry about
No.
that, Marty.
No, thank you. I couldn't. I'm looking here. I know I see it someplace. So, One more thing that I'm going to go, and not that I'm going to go back to a few other things. This got brought up in the minutes of the park board. You noticed at one point in time I voiced my concern on it. It's been talked about for the last 3 years on council, and it seems to go by the wayside a little bit every time, and we can talk about the pros and cons. But if there's some literature that goes on in here with requests from the public, and a few of them that I'm going to jump at is they talk about requests for better ADA docks at the lake. Tennis court resurfacing, which we're obviously in their Northridge bathrooms, which are in their skate park upgrades, which we just talked about. But one that's always been on the public request, and it's been on sort of my personal request every year, is Sandy Beach restrooms and shelter. The number for that phase of 1, 2, and 3 is actually a huge number overall when you go through all the phases. But there is one first phase that we've talked about several years. It's a phase of about $55,000 to do infrastructure at the Sandy Beach. I brought it up with the park board, and some of the conversation that was taking place that day is obviously where our current lake is at, whatever we may be, but that was one of the conversations of, are we going to put infrastructure into Sandy Beach when our lake is in the state that it's in? Another comment was the fact that we are doing a master plan, so to say, and find out what the master plan comes back at, and then let's go from there. Well, basically my thought of progress is on this is I'm one of the big boaters out there, lake. I go around. We have 2 beautiful beaches out there. Sandy Beach needs a lot of taken care of, and one thing, it doesn't have a bathroom or facility out there or a shelter and stuff like that. The other public beach does. For some odd reason, one beach gets used more than the other one, and it's the one that does not have all the amenities. I really like to see us take a leap of faith and move forward towards the project to show commitment. I guess that the people that are out there as the Sandy Beach users want to have something going on, and let alone tell the public that we're not giving up on our lake. We don't need to end up sitting here and waiting for another year for a master plan to come together. We need to keep on trying to move forward. We've talked about it every year, and we seem to bring it off the plate, and I think we need to put it back on. Tell the people of the city that, you know what, Lake Mitchell is going to be moving forward. We're going to get some things going down at Sandy Beach, and when this lake study comes back from FIRA, we got to figure out what we're going to do there too. But the last thing that I want to see us do is give up on it. And it just seems that this is one, maybe a small statement, and it's a small statement of 55,000. It's a number, but it's a small statement saying, hey, you know what, we are going to move forward with that area down there because it's one of our popular beach areas that get used. And I would love to see us take a step and just putting the infrastructure in. The master plan can come in and exactly how they want to, do it down there and where the bathroom should be at and all that kind of stuff. But let's get the utilities in and get the thing moving forward. And I guess when we're taking a look at things that we've taken out from the 145, I know we can all put several other things in there. I know there's gobs of stuff out here, but I guess for me sitting up here for 12 years, I know we've talked about it for 3 to 4 years, and I'd like to see it finally get in the budget and stay in it.
Marty, remind us of the 3 phases, what specifically would be included into the first phase?
The first phase is exactly that, just infrastructure in general, nothing.
Water, sewer, electricity?
Yeah, and if I'm speaking, Tim, if you want to help a little bit of clarification on it, I'm not trying to put you in a spot, but I'm going to put you in a spot, is just to make sure what the infrastructure all partake in that $55,000 number that has been on the plate for probably 3 years. That number probably might be even higher right now.
Well, there is water and pressure sewer that runs by Sandy Beach, so it would be a matter of the bathrooms to tie into that pressure sewer would simply need a pump, similar to what Indian Village put in a couple of years ago, and similar to what we have in other places around town. The water is available, so it's probably a matter of mainly bringing it down to where you want the bathrooms, digging a hole, putting a sealed vault for the pumps to sit in. I think what you're talking is probably in the range of $30 to $50,000 for that.
And this one, like I said, this number 55, I don't know how many years it's been on the list. It's actually number 1 on the list, and I imagine it's been there because it's been there for 3 years in a row, and it's number 1 on the public request list because it's been there for 3 years in a row. So, so that's the number they had is 55,000 is the estimated cost at that time. So that's why I'm looking at that number for allocation.
So Tim, would that be a lift station you put in there, or down below, or what do you do?
Yeah, it'd be more like it'd be a lift station that pumps into a force main, right?
Just goes up.
I'd say it'd be almost more like the basement lift in some of the houses around the lake.
So Marty, what is the approximate cost of 2 and 3 then?
Yeah, if you keep on moving forward, depending on how, they have allocated here right now, Sandy Beach, shelter, restroom, other additional things, sidewalks, things like that are around that area. Can cost up to $200,000. Obviously, there's beach paving, Sandy Beach paving, which I don't think that's a priority by any means in any phases, right away up front by any means. It's more of, I guess, if we do the infrastructure, your next thing is that bathroom in general. And the number they have here is, like I said, from the shelter and some sidewalk is $200,000. Now, I know we're putting a bathroom in at the park over here in Northridge for 62, and why this one's up at 150 to 200,000, I don't know why the number jumps significantly, but it seems like it does. So I don't know if it was maybe designed to have showers in there and stuff like that because it's at the beach area, and it maybe well could, but by any means, I don't think we need to say that phase 2 is going to be that. I think that number probably could be modified to a restroom facility that would fit that, fit that area down there in a shelter, which I would believe we should be able to do a lot less number than that, unless I'm thinking out of the box wrong, Tim.
Yeah, the number, just off my head, the 30 to 50 is just to get the water and sewer and the vault down there. So whatever is left to build the actual building. And,
I think that number, that second phase number, is way too high. Is what I'm trying to get at. So I know we did the one at.
Depends on how much concrete you got.
Right. It doesn't need to be the Taj Mahal down there. It just needs to be a facility better than what we have right now, which I believe is a little porta potty.
So the infrastructure is roughly 50.
Yeah.
So if I hear Tim right, if we want to include this, if the high side would be 50,000.
do you have a number in front of you? I don't.
Yeah, I do. Yep, Park and Forestry, Lake Mitchell, water and sewer service for Sandy Beach, 55,000 estimated cost.
Okay.
I think that was proposed even the first year I was here in 14.
Yeah, 3 to 4 years.
Well, I guess if that's the proposal, then that's probably the number we should be looking at, because you don't want to be short.
Tim, do we do most of this in-house or no?
We probably can do this in-house. I'm trying to think of the last one we put in. I can't think of it, but
I was just looking to save some extra money for Marty's bathrooms.
well, our backhoes are getting old, and we threw one out of the budget this year, but generally we probably can.
Thanks, Danny.
He's just trying to reduce the phosphates in the lake.
So I want to make a motion to add into the budget water sewer service for Sandy Beach restrooms infrastructure of 55,000.
Second.
More discussion.
I guess I'm going to have to say, based on timing and the situation of the lake and the number of users for the dollar amount, that I don't see where it's needed at this time.
Marty, would this be used year-round for ice fishermen and snowmobilers and
I don't
the
think.
lake, or are we building a bathroom for 200,000 for 3 months?
And I don't think it would be. I can't. I'm pretty sure they shut those bathrooms down even at the public beach, if I'm not mistaken. So the public beach, the current one, which is, I don't know, the very first one that's been out there, that has a restroom there, and obviously they shut it down. And if you want to go numbers per user,
they winterize.
I can tell you we're like this.
I think we did it. We did a similar thing at Camp Arroyo. There's probably a number involved for that one.
And I think, once again, that $200,000 number that is on this piece of paper, I believe that number is very, very high for what I've seen for what we put in for restroom costs already. So it's more of getting the infrastructure in at some point in time, even if phase 2 doesn't come next year, because once again, we take a look where numbers are at and all that kind of stuff, we put the infrastructure in, which you're going to have at some point in time. At some point in time, you're going to have bathrooms there because people keep on requesting them and wanting them, and it is the most used beach that we have around the lake. Clearly is. And I'm speaking that from the person that's on the water almost every weekend, and I still swim in the water every weekend.
So we really put the bathroom at the wrong beach.
We did. I think I made that statement to somebody else. Yeah. The public beach looks beautiful there, and that restroom's there, but you know what? Sadly to say, it was at the wrong beach.
That's the discussion.
Okay. We're getting close on time here, so if we can try to keep moving, that'd be great. So, any other thoughts? We got a motion and a second on 55,000 for Sandy Beach. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
No.
We're going to have a roll call.
Allen,
Aye.
Barrington,
Aye.
Dosher, McCardle,
No.
Olson,
No.
Rice,
No.
Smith,
Aye.
Sharks. 4-4.
She failed. Okay.
Now you just made me run for another 3-year term. One more last thing I want to point out that has been discussed quite a bit too while we're talking about it is, and if some of from the city, if it's Nathan or even Tim, if you've heard a little bit about this, the Kibbe Pier replacement dock, Kibbe Park down the lower portion of it has I would call it somewhat of a handicap accessible dock that's still there. It's probably, I believe it's probably the first one that ever was put in, if not the second one. I believe there's one under the water just around the corner by the spillway, but that one's been there for quite a long time, and it's, I think part of it fell one time. I think we put some gates on it on the end of it. Been watching a little bit, and it's been talked about quite a bit of trying to upgrade that and finally get it back to, we've got some new ones in Frank Bay. We got another one that the Pheasant Forever put in, a floatable dock. This one is there, and it's another area. If you ever want to take a drive by there, it's an area that gets fished on all the time. They fish off a little bit of the rocks there. They come up and climb up the trees, and that handicap pier is far from neat. I mean, it's way beyond its point of life expectancy. So I don't know, like I said, Tim, if you got any thoughts once again, or Nathan, but I'm just throwing out some things for the council to consider. Not necessarily having to spend money, but things that have been talked about for years that haven't been done. It keeps on sort of getting pushed by the wayside. Maybe this is one area that the council would like to take a look and doing. On the piece of paper that has been in front of me for years is Kibbe Pier replacement is $75,000.
The other thought that I had, if we had any extra money in that account, would be, or in this budget, would be that we start setting aside some money for the fiber plan. I know that there's other ways of, I know that we don't have a number, but we certainly can anticipate that we're going to have a pretty hefty bill that will come to us, and I don't see any harm in having a special fund set aside where we have some money that we can start to save and invest that we can use towards that lake plan.
I know we're close to the end, but I guess, Marty, I'd like to pursue the dock.
Any comments, Nate or Tim? Probably caught you off guard here, but did you have any
Is there
additional thoughts?
You know, a lot of this, we're just waiting through the master plan process, including the Sandy Beach restrooms, just making sure that those are all addressed through our process of master plan, the master plan. So we haven't proposed, the board didn't propose this yet, but we haven't had these conversations.
Right.
So.
And how about the pier?
The pier, again, I haven't, they're looking at those for me, and we just haven't addressed or had the conversations with the board yet. So.
Is the pier a safety factor, Nathan? Do you know? Is it? Every day I go by that on 37. There's kids out there. There's people out there. They're fishing out there.
There's no safety issue right now. Again, but I haven't looked at it, Marty, so I'm not aware of that.
Didn't mean to blindside you on it. But
That's all right.
we were talking about a few things, and that's been I've been.
Do we
hearing
know
from
what
public, so, and
the pier they put at the Sportsman, the Pheasants Forever, what that cost them?
I do not know.
No, but I could find out.
Yeah, I do not.
That would have been
It was like
3
2 years ago, 3 years ago.
I think it's 3.
I remember when you first came on, Stephanie.
I believe it's 3 now.
14 or 15? And then it took the next year before it got
Right.
built.
I think it took
And
2
I don't know
years.
if this is, if you get the one by Frank's Bay, which is this big wooden one that we put in the water, and then the one over by Pheasant Forever is more of the, I don't know, I'm not gonna call it plastic, but it's just more of a, you can definitely see it's a little lesser quality than the other one. And of course, the one at Kibbe Park it's a
old.
steel structure that's got I-beams that go in the water. It don't come out, it stays in there and it takes the ice, and obviously it's been there for, it's been there for years.
It was damaged at one point too.
So a new one, if this would ever succeed, or, take, maybe it's the new floating style. It doesn't have to be one that goes in there, but the number on the paper, like I said, was 75,000. I just going back to a few other things that I just know that it's been on the request from the public. It's been on the sheet for the Park and Rec for years, and it's an area that does get used a lot. I mean, a lot.
you probably need a pile driver to get those old steel beams out of the water at Kibbe. That's been in, by the way, since about 1988, so it's about 30 years old.
It's probably better to try to see if we can use it and just revamp it and make it better from what it is compared to how it's sort of sitting right now. So,
Well, why don't we gather some more information on that, and we'll come back. We've got a couple other questions, obviously.
Yeah.
We've got one question I had was on the. Are you done, Marty?
well, yes, I am just kidding right now. I am. Yeah, go for it.
The SCADA upgrade, we did touch on that during our work
Yep.
session. Is that something we do want to keep in?
No, what I talked about at the last one, and if you want to adjust that on there now, we could do that. But the preference for the water department would be to do that service vehicle versus, I'm trying to get to the right spot, I apologize.
Oh, service van for 25?
Yeah, the service van for 25 in lieu of that SCADA replacement. If you remember, we had to cut these down because the water fund does not have more cash to apply to balance with the number of projects that they have going on next year. So this was just getting down to dollars and cents, and since we can wait on the SCADA upgrade, Tim would rather see the service van in there.
Yeah, the blue van you see going around town that carries pipes and meters and tools and keys to reach down into vans is what I'm told really on its last leg, and that would be our priority. The SCADA, I've been told, is a 32-bit system, and as long as they continue to service that, we were going to replace it with 64, but it sounds like between Stephanie and Andrew, if they can service 32-bit, we can go another year on it.
And the good thing is that's a hardware that's installed to the treatment plant, so then you'll get through your decommissioning plan with the current treatment plant before you invest in that software. So if that's okay, I could just adjust that on here with everybody. Okay.
Would somebody like to make that motion?
Yeah, I'll make that.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor for the change, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carry.
I know we're at the end of our time, and we don't need to necessarily discuss it tonight, but I want to bring it up so that we can think about it, and that's the 3rd and Main intersection. And I don't have any issue with the 3rd and Main intersection as it is, but I do have an issue with the 3rd and Main intersection with the building that's fallen down. So the question is, do we want to proceed with an upgrade to Main Street when there may be heavy equipment and who knows, the building getting repaired, that's one thing, or the building coming down is another.
And maybe what I could suggest is you wait till the next meeting on that. They have a schematic for us, so then you guys could review that schematic. And if there is concern with that 3rd and Main, even though that's Main Street's first priority, perhaps we could do 2 of the smaller intersections, starting from 6th Avenue going down, because they do have a plan for each of those.
Yeah, and I want to be clear, I'm not against the 3rd and Main project
But with the building,
itself,
yeah.
But with the building, you don't know how long it's going to be.
Yep.
You don't know what kind of heavy equipment's going to be in there, and you don't want to build something that gets ripped up.
I think that makes sense, and then you guys could see the different schematics that are being designed as well.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Where is that?
We've got probably just a couple more minutes if we want to utilize it. If not, we'll have Stephanie and Nate and, yep.
I've got one question, and a note that I wrote to myself to Tim. Excuse me, sorry about that. Tim, it goes back when we talked about the new procedure for the manhole rehabilitation, and we put 300,000 in there, but not knowing exactly how that's going to work or how many it's going to cover, and whether is it a chance that we could do 150,000 or 200,000 until we kind of see how it works, and then go after that since it's new and untested to us?
Well, we have a project going on right now of approximately between 15 and 20 manholes we're doing. They're very deep, very old. Now, from one manhole to the next, the manholes are going from very bad to the next one might be very good, to the next 2 might be very bad. So I think the project's actually going very good. And the cement that they're spraying in is 10,000 PSI cement, and then it's covered with an epoxy to keep corrosion from happening. We think it's going very well. They're chiseling out loose stuff in the manholes, so that material is filling in the areas that we've chiseled out and then putting a half an inch on the whole thing.
So there's the potential we'll get 100% of our value from them doing this kind of experimentally on some of our old manholes?
Yes, I think so. The $100,000, if we had to dig up manholes and replace them, which we will if we don't do something, would probably, on these deep 30-foot manholes on banks and inaccessible, would probably only do about 3. And we're hoping to get between 15 and 20.
Okay, thank you.
One last thing real quickly, and probably beat Marty to it with Park and Rec, but there was cardio equipment that was in at 49,000, and that was dramatically sliced down to 10. So I don't know, Nate, if you want to give us a quick update on that, or we can obviously save that for next time also.
It's my understanding that they would replace 2 or 3 units every year, and they haven't done that for 3 years. So all of our equipment's reaching its life as well. We're doing maintenance. At a minimum, it'd be nice to get back into a rotation at a minimum.
When a couple years ago, we talked about lease equipment instead of purchase. Is that part of this option, or these are purchases?
We couldn't find a financially feasible option for leasing. We could not find a financial feasible option for leasing.
For leasing, you could,
No.
didn't look like it worked. Okay. Okay.
So it was replacing 13 items, is that what it was, Nate? And now we're down to, what would it be, 3?
The request is 13 items. You
Was
know,
the 49?
Yep.
Was 2, 3? Okay. All right.
The per unit price that was in the budget request.
I believe it's about 4,000 actually each, so it'd be 12.
Okay. Why don't,
And this is another one that did come from the park board at 49 to begin with, and obviously had to be modified, so.
okay.
It was one of their other requests.
It was one of those top 3 that came back in that email, right?
So if we did half this year and half next year, or 2019 would work too.
What's the question then?
If we did, you got 12 machines, right, for 4,000 apiece?
That's correct. I think it's 13. Each machine, depends on what machine you get, they're different prices,
Well,
so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's 24.5 or whatever you want to call it, 24. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to go ahead and replace half of them, and we'll round it off to 25,000. We're in it or we're out of it. That's all we got to do.
Yeah, and I agree. I want us to do something here. I mean, I'll second Dan's 25 because I want to see us do something better. I guess if the council's thought is to go to the 49, I do believe it's just something that we need to keep on making sure we progress forward to in this area. But proposal on the table of 25. I'll second Dan's motion of 25,000.
Any other discussion?
I guess I want to make sure, is there a safety issue with the ones that are old that are currently being used?
It's not safety, it's more maintenance.
Are they going to be able to be utilized? Are they still able to be used? The ones that, if we only replace half this
Some of them
year?
they've come to the end of their life. So I think my answer to that would be, we would probably trade them in, and that might be included in his quote there. I'm not 100%.
Stephanie, can you show us where we're at with our overall?
And I was unclear, did you guys make a change to the bathroom remodel?
We were going to get more
Just,
information.
so I should add that to next meeting's discussion along with the
Correct.
intersection.
What
on
it
Main
actually
Street.
includes.
The Northridge Park bathroom?
No, the rec center. Oh, I'm sorry, on the wrong one, right here.
Oh.
The rec center.
Oh, get more detail.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
It would be.
That was one of their priorities, and
yes.
I did get
Then
an
right
answer.
now you're down 97,875, Susan.
And that bathroom, if we put it back in?
25.
25. Well, then I'd like to amend the motion and say that we outdo the full 49,000 in the equipment this year.
And I will second that. I was going to support 49 and I'll support 25.
Okay, any more discussion?
Is that an amendment or just a new motion?
We'll just do a new motion.
Yeah, give me a
Thank you.
substitute motion. We were having a sidebar here, and I'm going to support the 25 if 49 fails. My concern is when we say we're going to do half this year and half next year, that we don't remember to do the half next year. That's my concern.
Do it all.
And how many times that happens in here for 12 years? Seen that done before.
Okay, all in favor of taking it back up to the 49,000 from the 10,000, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carries. Okay, so we've got a couple items that we're going to get information, Third and Main and the bathrooms. So Stephanie and I will visit about the amount of time that we think, more than likely it'll at least be a half hour, but I don't think we'll need to do 2 hours.
And I'm wondering, could we just do that as a committee meeting before your
Prob-
regular?
Probably, but remember, there might be some people that want,
Oh,
that
yeah.
we'll send letters to that want to come
It's-
in
and that's
and
what
make comments
We'll
about
ask if they will
allocations
if we
or,
respond, if they would like to, if they think they would want to come in, and that will,
so,
because there's no use sitting here for 2 hours.
right.
But if there's people that do want to come in and visit, then we're going to allot
We-
them some time.
Yeah,
And
we
how
got to
much-
give them the time. I'm concerned about cutting them off at this discussion time, because when we get to September and we're having the hearings,
You just want to be done?
if there are concerns, I certainly want the people to come in and tell us, but if we can start that discussion at the next meeting instead of waiting all the way till the end and having somebody come up with something we haven't heard about yet, let's give them the time and make sure that it's publicized that we do that.
Can I clarify 2 things? So is there anything else you want me to pull out of the capital items for further discussion? I want to make sure I'm not omitting any
Is there
other.
anything else for capital that you guys want to discuss next time?
I just want to make sure. I believe the council was, at least wanted to make sure that they come back with more information on that Kibbe Pier, correct?
Yes.
Oh, that's the third one.
I missed
Okay.
that.
That's the
Yeah,
third.
right, I didn't see anywhere, so I figured Stephanie might.
If there are any estimates or anything on that, maybe it doesn't make this year, but
Okay.
I agree, but yeah, Nathan and maybe Tim or whoever, some information better on a new Kibbe Pier, or maybe it's reconstruction of it or whatever it may be. If you guys could have that information, I'd greatly appreciate it for next
So
time.
I've got those 3 items, and then I will send out the notifications to any outside funding. How much time do you want me to allocate for them? Because I
Well-
guarantee they'll all want
Can you
to.
give them a deadline to respond
Yeah.
back to you, like by Friday or something?
I will,
don't
but
know.
how much time
Yeah,
do you want me to
I
allocate?
think 5 minutes is going to be very
Okay.
sufficient for each one of them.
Now, clarify for me, our next meeting like this is before our next regular?
Yes,
meeting?
and so it's a matter of start time. We'll have to figure that out.
So is there any way, Justin, that we can do like we do with city council?
Yeah.
You know, we have the committees, and when it's done, we start? Can we
That's-
do that for
I was
next
going to
time?
say it could be a finance committee. That's what we did at your hearing, or your meeting last year. Instead of a 4 to 6, you just started your finance committee at 6.
Right, but what I'm saying is if we did start at 4
Oh,
and we were done at 4:07, could we start the city council?
yeah.
I think it's going to depend on what you have noticed for hearing on that date.
Especially if there's a planning and zoning.
Oh, because those would be at a published
Because,
time.
yeah, those would have
Okay.
had published times already, so.
I think you could probably just,
Start
if
at
you are all
6?
okay starting at 6 o'clock, I don't think you'd probably
I
have
think
more
so,
than
then-
an hour dedicated to this.
To the finance meeting to
Yeah.
review the discussion tonight.
Okay.
Right.
6 sounds good to me.
Is that all right? Okay, thanks, everyone. We've got, I believe, back here, so, and then we are starting in